that's a possibility. That's a good possibility. That's one that people like Mark Lane might agree with.
What was it about Oswald that interested you enough to want to write a book about him?
He went to Russia, and that blew my mind. You know, one day, Bud Simcoe, my friend, brings me a copy of the Stars and Stripes, and he says, look at this. And there on maybe page 3, there's an article, and it said, today or yesterday or whatever it was, Lee H. Oswald, an ex-Marine, walked into the American embassy in Moscow and plopped his passport down and said he wanted to renounce his American citizenship. And here was this guy that had said he thought the best religion was communism, with this little impish smile on his face, always saying these things with a smile, you know, like in the Virginian, you know, smile when you say that. Yeah, it was that type. I could not only was I not sure, I was sure he wasn't serious. You know, I thought, well, this guy's, you know, this is a lot of fun. This playing with these words from 1984 and the Soviet Union, like comrade and so on and so forth. This is a lot of fun because sometimes we can switch into communism and sometimes we can switch into Big Brother, talking about, you know, sometimes we can switch into 1984 frame of reference, and sometimes we can switch into the Russian communist frame of reference, and nobody else in the outfit would know where we were at. And we used to like to argue with the religious fundamentalists a lot. There was one guy named Nelson Delgado that was just a fanatic.
So you and Lee spent a lot of time together talking?
Yeah, usually on either in the afternoons when we're sitting around cleaning our rifles or on work details. Sometimes we were like, I remember one day, this is one of my most vivid memories of him. We were taking a radar unit down off of a truck, or loading it onto a truck, I guess it was, and as we picked it up, Oswald or I, one or the other of us, said, be careful with Big Brother's equipment. And everyone said, yes, comrade.
Yes, comrade.
One day I was walking across the field, I had my hands in my pocket, and Oswald came walking toward me, and he said, Thornley. Or not, no, he didn't say Thornley, he said, Smith, Winston, and rattled off a number. And he says, get your hands out of your pockets, like the loudspeakers in 1984 used to say to people. You know?
Oh, yes.
Stuff like that, you know, because he knew I'd read the book now. And anybody who hadn't read 1984 or hadn't read a lot of Karl Marx or a lot of interpreters of Karl Marx didn't have the slightest idea what and we used to enjoy that.
Sounds like he was getting you into a sort of a secret language.
Well, that was as close, yeah, but it didn't get very far. And that was as close as we ever were. We never went on Liberty together.
When was the last time you saw Lee Harvey Oswald?
I saw him in the Marines. I don't know the last time I actually laid eyes on him, but the last time he spoke to me was one day when we were sitting around, and I made some wise remark that he didn't like, and he said, not you too, Thornley, and got up and walked off. And I was talking, I felt that day that there had been a misunderstanding between us, because I was talking about 1984, and I decided he thought I was red baiting him.
Okay.
That was his attitude, as if I'd been red baiting him, because a lot of guys did, because a lot of guys really thought he was a communist. Yes. Like I said, I didn't. I figured he was just about a liberal like I was, but liked to put like to run the officers' flags up every now and then by looking subversive, you know, because it was a lot of fun to get authorities uptight in the Marine Corps if you could avoid the retribution that sometimes resulted, which Oswald made no attempt to do, which I didn't understand either. You know, he was always getting me put on shit details, and he seemed like a masochist to me in that respect.
After the last time you saw him there in California?
Yeah.
El Toro?
Yeah, Tustin, California, subsidiary of El Toro, yeah.
After that, you were transferred?
Yeah, I went overseas, and I wound up in the outfit he had been in. Okay. He had been in the Marines overseas, and he'd just been to Japan when I met him.
And you didn't have any contact with him over there at that time?
But I was in the same milieu that he had been in, and I thought, so therefore I thought I was beginning to understand him. I thought, now I see why he doesn't worry about what will happen to him when he mouths off, because over here, if you mouth off, they don't do anything to you.
You were trying to characterize him as a character in your novel, Idle Warriors?
Yeah, I based Johnny Shelburne, the main character, on Oswald and on my friend Bud Simcoe, in the sense that some of the sea stories in there, some of the great sexual adventures were Bud's that he told me about, sea stories, as he called them. He says, you're writing a book. He says, if I ever got one for you, Kerry, sit down.
Put this in your book.
Yeah, some of the stories are stories that Bud told me. So they were all in my attempt, by projecting my own personality into Oswald, to understand why he had defected. I thought at the time when I went overseas and I got in this demoralized outfit where the enlisted men ran everything, and had a very high morale among the enlisted men, but no Marine Corps gung-ho spirit whatsoever. I mean, that was square stuff as far as we were concerned. You know, it was a lot of technicians, a lot of ray scope dopes, radar people, stuff like that.